They left her and her 6-year-old son stranded in the desert at night, but she didn't just survive. She erased them from her life so completely. They didn't even see the final strike coming. The desert wind lashed against my face as the red taillights of my parents' car vanished into the endless stretch of highway. My shoes sank into the loose gravel, my hand wrapped protectively around my 6-year-old son Mason's slender shoulder. He clung to me, barefoot, his eyes wide and glistening beneath the moonlight. "Mommy, are they coming back?" His voice was small, fragile, yet filled with an innocence that sliced through my heart. I couldn't answer. My throat felt raw, strangled by words that refused to rise. My father's voice still echoed in my head, cruel and clipped. "Leeches like you need to learn to crawl." He hadn't even looked back when he shoved the car door open, hurled my duffel bag into the dirt, and left us standing on the shoulder of a desert road that had no mercy. My mother remained silent in the passenger seat, arms crossed, her lips curled into a sneer as if watching my downfall was a mild inconvenience. "You're 25, Tessa. Stop acting like the world owes you." Her words clung to me as the sound of their car faded into the desert night. Mason had been asleep when the argument started. A quiet dispute over money that ignited into a violent storm when I refused to hand over the child support I desperately needed to survive. The last thing my father yelled before speeding off was nearly driving into a ditch, his face red with rage. We were stranded. No phone, no water, no signal, no mercy. The nearest exit was a 40-minute walk, and the road ahead twisted into a black abyss. Mason tugged at my hoodie. "Mommy, my feet hurt." I crouched down, wrapping him in my sweater, cradling his small body as I sat beside the discarded duffel bag. I'd packed it for a simple today visit, not a fight for survival in the Mojave. Inside there was a half-eaten granola bar and a pair of my old ballet flats. I slipped them onto his feet, even though they flopped loosely around his toes. He didn't complain. "Try to sleep, baby. I'll figure something out." He nodded, curling beside me, using the duffel as a pillow. I wrapped myself around him, shielding him from the cold as my body shook, not from the wind, but from the quiet devastation of betrayal. He had always despised my choice to keep Mason. "You ruined your future," Mom hissed when I came home pregnant. "At 19, no man will marry a girl with baggage," Dad snapped. I had believed them, swallowed their venom until it became my truth. But Mason was the only person who had ever looked at me as if I mattered. The only reason I had survived thus far. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat upright, back aching against the gravel shoulder, watching the stars dissolve into a dull, indifferent dawn. Not a single car passed. Just as I began to contemplate the impossible walk, a pickup truck appeared on the horizon. It slowed as it neared, pulling over with a sigh of brakes. The window rolled down, revealing an older woman in a faded denim shirt. "You two okay?" Her voice was kind, but firm. I nodded, too quickly. "Our car broke down." I lied. She didn't ask for details. Her eyes flicked from Mason, curled on the ground, to my cracked lips and dirt-streaked face. "Get in." I hesitated. She leaned over and popped open the passenger door. I don't ask twice. We climbed in. Mason didn't even stir. Her name was Sandra. She didn't pry, just handed me a bottle of water and turned up the heater. The truck smelled of lemon balm and old books. For the first 5 minutes, the only sounds were Mason's soft breathing and the hum of the road beneath us. Then, without looking at me, she said, "You look like someone whose family should be ashamed." I turned to her, startled. I was kicked out, too, once. Pregnant, cold. Now I run a mechanic shop and rescue stray girls. Looks like I just picked up an theory covered my mouth, the sobs escaping despite my effort to stay composed. She took us to her home, a small house behind her garage, with a cotton couch and enough food to make Mason smile for the first time in days. For 2 weeks she sheltered us, but what she truly offered was something deeper. Space, silence, time to process the pain. To realize that my parents' cruelty was not a fleeting act of anger but a calculated punishment for my defiance. They hadn't just abandoned me. They had tried to break me out in that desert. Something inside me had snapped, and it wasn't my will. I had no intention of ever crawling again. First 19 days passed in quiet recovery. Every bruise and blister on Mason's small feet became a silent testament to our ordeal. I marked the days by the healing of my body. The ache in my lower back faded, and the rawness of my throat eased. But something within me was only beginning to awaken. Sandra didn't hover. She offered work at her garage, meals and space. By the 10th day, I was underneath cars, learning how to change oil, rotate tires, and even replace timing belts. She paid me in cash and complimented my sharp mind. "You wear sharper than you look," she said, handing me a wrench. I smiled, wiping grease from my hands. I've always been sharper. They just never let me prove it. Each day in that garage rebuilt pieces of me I had forgotten existed. One evening, after Mason had drifted off to sleep on Sandra's couch, I found my old phone buried in the duffel. Sandra helped me charge it. The first thing I saw when it powered on was a message from my mother. "You always twist things to make us look bad. No one told you to bring your drama into our weekend." He stared at those words, my hands trembling. My drama, as if they hadn't kicked me and my child into the desert like discarded trash. The rage didn't boil over. It simmered, cold and calculating. I didn't want revenge that looked like rage. I wanted erasure. Quiet, thorough, permanent. They had thrown me away. Now I would erase them the next day. I changed my last name, Sandra, signed as my witness. Every document that tethered me to the Carver name was dissolved. Mason's surname was changed too. I gave him mine, not my father's. I closed bank accounts, canceled my phone number, and created new ones with no forwarding address. They would search and find only emptiness. But paper wasn't enough. I wanted complete deletion. He found the family lawyer's contact buried in an old email. Sandra helped me draft a letter, formally removing myself from their will and estate. It was notarized and delivered. I told Sandra, "They threw me out like garbage. I'm just putting the lid on the can." Mason, however, remained blissfully unaware. One evening, while I was doing paperwork in the garage office, Mason scribbled a letter. He addressed it to Grandma and Grandpa and slipped it into the mailbox outside without telling me. "Dear Grandma and Grandpa, I love Mommy. You were mean to her, but if you say sorry, maybe we can see you again. Love, Mason." He drew a heart with 3 figures inside it. One had a huge smile, the other 2 had frowns. Sandra found it first. She handed it to me gently. "You going to send it?" I shook my head. "No, I'm going to show it to them. Not by mail." In person. 3 months later, I drove the same road where they had abandoned me. But this time, I wasn't a broken silhouette on the gravel shoulder. Mason was at a sleepover Sandra arranged. "You go settle this," she said. "Not for them. For you." Their house hadn't changed. The smug garden, the pristine lawn, the family is everything plaque hanging by the door. I stood on the sidewalk for 10 minutes, the letter in my hand. Then I rang the bell. Me mother opened the door, phone in hand, her face contorting in disbelief. "Tessa," she croaked. My father sauntered into view behind her, munching on chips. "She's back." I knew she'd come crawling. I smiled. "I didn't come to crawl. I came to bury me." Mother frowned. "What are you talking about? Where's Mason?" "Safe," I replied. "Far away from people who treat blood like poison. They tried to twist it, to manipulate, to smirk." Dad even chuckled. "You still mad about a little desert drama? You survived, didn't you?" I unfolded Mason's letter and held it up. "This is what you lost." My mother reached for it, but I pulled it back. "It's not yours anymore. You don't get to see what love looks like after you shattered it. From my bag, I retrieved a small, battered showbox. Inside were copies of every legal document I had filed. Name change forms, will removal papers, custody declarations, bank account closures, and a letter I wrote them the night they abandoned us. At the bottom, a photo of Mason, smiling as Sandra held a birthday cupcake. The one you missed because you don't even know when his birthday is. I handed the box to my mother. I'm here to erase you. Officially, emotionally, completely. My mother stared at the box as if it were a live grenade. I turned to leave. My father shouted after me, "You think you're better than us now? You think that makes you special?" I turned, standing at the edge of their porch. "No, I don't think I'm better. I know I'm free." Walked away. There were no slammed doors, no shouting matches, only quiet steps echoing freedom. 2 years later, I stood in front of a small classroom of single mothers at a women's shelter in Arizona. My name tag read Tessa James. Mason sat at the back, doodling contentedly. A woman raised her hand. "How did you do it? How did you get out?" I smiled, heart steady. "I got out when I stopped trying to make broken people hold sacred things. You can't build a future in a house that buried you alive." Outside, the desert wind danced against the windows, the same wind that once stung my tears. Now, it only felt like freedom because they discarded me like garbage. So I erased them like they never mattered. And I never looked back.